What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and we have major news, breaking news. We have The Mandalorian, we have Moff Gideon, and more cards spoiled for Set 2 of Star Wars Unlimited, aka Shadows of the Galaxy. Super excited about this set. I can't wait just to get more cards, right? I go to make a green deck, and I'm looking. I only have 4 hero or 4 leader options, and then I go from there, and I only have to pick hero or villain, and I only have 2, so I need options, and I'm super excited to be getting some. So let's break down the cards that we saw. Mostly here, we're going to be looking at the starter deck cards with the S rarity, special rarity. So these will be starter exclusive. So some really good stuff in here, just like there was in the first set. Luke and Vader both had arguably some of the strongest cards in the set in that starter, including Leia and Luke's lightsaber and etc. etc. So we're gonna jump right in. Mandalorian here, and shout out to SwooDB using their website here. They have all the cards up. You can deck build with these cards and everything. So shout out to those guys. The Mandalorian. Yellow hero, cunning heroism. When you play an upgrade, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, exhaust an enemy unit with 4 or less remaining HP. So kind of an interesting ability. I mean, I love it theme-wise right away. You know, you have a Mandalorian, you have somebody who wants to upgrade themselves, right? They're constantly upgrading their armor, getting new weapons and stuff. So it's great. You play an upgrade, and spoiler alert, this will work with bounties as well, which we'll be covering in a second. But play an upgrade, you get to an exhaust an enemy unit with 4 or less remaining HP. I think that's also cool because it's kind of like you're weakening the target, and then if they're below a threshold, you can exhaust them. So he flips out on turn 6. We can hit deploy right here, and he becomes a 4/7. Pretty solid stats at 6. I think that's the same as Jin, so, you know, interesting stat line. When you play an upgrade, you may exhaust an enemy unit with 6 or less remaining HP. So now you can do this multiple times a turn. It's not just once as the hero side. You have to exhaust this leader. This side you don't, so you can play multiple upgrades and exhaust a lot of enemy characters. So yellow clearly has that exhaust theme in it. And it's continuing here with the Mandalorian. I'm very excited for this character. I think he's actually really solid. Exhausting enemy units with X health remaining is really cool. It's not allotted to just ground units. It could be leader units. It could be space units, etc. I think it's a really solid ability, and I think it fits the theme great. So let's look at the other leader we got. Go back here. I'm gonna hit Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon is green. Villainy, action, exhaust. Attack with a unit that costs 3 or less. If it's attacking a unit, it gets +1/+0 for this attack. So it kind of reminds me of Jin as Gen. I'm mentioning Jin twice, and she's not a very good hero, but it kind of reminds me of that ability of attack with a unit, and the opposing unit gets -1 attack for this attack. So this makes you attack with a unit, and it gets +1 attack if it's attacking a unit, but it's particular to 3 cost. So clearly this has got like a swarmy type feel to it right off the bat. Which is pretty interesting. Let's see what he does when you flip him. At turn 5, you can flip Moff Gideon. He's a 3/6, so really good stats for a 5-drop. He has Overwhelm, which, great. Only 3 attack with Overwhelm is a little underwhelming at first, but let's see if there's a way you can gain any attack. Each friendly unit that costs 3 or less gets +1/+0 and gains Overwhelm while attacking an enemy unit. So that won't apply to himself, but if he can boost himself, that's pretty cool. But he clearly will boost all of his friends that cost 3 or less, so that's pretty great. And give them all Overwhelm and +1 attack. I mean, that's definitely a swarm style. I love that. So you're clearly thinking already, all right, so what are the 3 costs that we could get on the villainy side, or, you know, in the game in general? And, like, I'm thinking, okay, Fifth Brother's a really good option, right? Like, what other 3-drops are there? Especially in green, you already have the Royal Guard, who's really good, and clearly Moff Gideon is an official right here at this tag, so Royal Guard seems really good. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're going to put out more, so I'm really excited for this playstyle. I don't think Villain has a ton of swarm ability right now, so I'm very excited to see what kind of units Moff Gideon has to support his fight here. But the other cool thing is that I think it's pretty fitting. I mean, the first time, you know, you see Moff in action is at the end of season 1 of Mando, and he's got his entire battalion, right, surrounding Mando in that little cantina, and it's great. He's got his death troopers, etc. He eventually builds up to dark troopers and all. I mean, I love it. I love the theme. So both of these leaders are really cool. So let's look at some other cards. All right, so let's jump up to the Mandalorian's Rifle. It's a 3-cost heroism card, so it doesn't have any color aligned to it. It's a +3/+0 upgrade item attached to a friendly non-vehicle unit. When played, if attached unit is the Mandalorian, he captures an exhausted non-leader enemy unit. Super interesting. So what capture does, for those wondering, essentially you discard any upgrade on that card and remove all damage from that card. So if they have a character out, you would eliminate any shield tokens, experience tokens, damage. If it has a lightsaber, you kill that, and you take their card and you put it underneath your unit. So this would be putting it underneath the Mandalorian in particular. And when you do that, they become captured on that side of the board until your opponent can kill the character that captured them. Once they do, the unit is returned to play exhausted. It doesn't technically enter play, so it doesn't gain a when played effect. It's not played. I mean, it does enter play, but it's not played, so it doesn't gain the when played effect. So that's kind of what captured does. Clearly, this is a great upgrade for the Mandalorian. Really solid card, +3, +0. Can be in heroism, so you don't have to be color specific here. I mean, really solid card. I mean, will it see play outside of Mandalorian decks? I doubt it. Just a +3, +0 doesn't really make any sense. But in Mando decks, it's great. You're putting a captured unit underneath of a leader that has 7 health, so it's really tough to get rid of. I mean, that's a really solid card. We don't know how good captured's going to be yet, but I mean, that's a really solid effect. Plus, if you look at Mando, Razor Crest, not yet. Mando, when you play an upgrade, you may exhaust an enemy unit. So you can actually trigger this effect. If attached unit is the Mandalorian who captures an exhausted enemy, you could trigger Mando's ability first because you get to pick the when played order. You could exhaust an enemy unit, and then the Mandalorian rifle could trigger its when played, and you could just capture that unit. Seems good. Yeah, I mean, seems really good. So let's talk about. I'm going to jump over here to. I'm going to skip Gideon. I'm going to talk about the light side cards for now, or cards that go along with Mando. So wanted is a bounty. So it's a 0 cost upgrade, and it's a bounty condition +0, +0. So it doesn't affect anything. But attached unit gains bounty, which is a keyword, ready to friendly resources. When this unit is defeated or captured, its opponent collects its bounty. So essentially now you put this upgrade on an opposing unit, not your own, and when that unit is killed or when it is captured, then you get to ready to friendly resources. Really solid. Again, works really well with Mando. It's an upgrade, so you can exhaust a character when you play this, but you're essentially putting out a card, so you're using a card slot from your hand to then eventually gain 2 friendly resources if you can kill a unit. But I really like this style because you're kind of putting like a target on somebody, and now, okay, you're both kind of having to play around that. How much does your opponent want to protect that card, and how much do you want to commit to killing that card to gain the upgrade? Really excited to see where the bounty keyword in general could grow. Speaking of growing, Grogu here has grown a 4th finger. Round of applause for Grogu. He has 4 fingers now. Grogu is a 2-cost yellow heroism card. He's a 0/5, and he has action exhaust himself to exhaust an enemy unit. Plus, he has the force tag. He's nuts. He's actually so good. Starter exclusive card. I think Leia is currently like my favorite 2-drop in the game, arguably one of the best. And now this next starter kit comes with another 2-drop yellow card that I think is bananas. It's a 0/5, so it's not going to offer damage, but it has the force tag, so you could put like a Jedi lightsaber on it, give it +3, +3, and its effect of reducing enemy stats. He gives you the force tag for any of your events that you want to play that require the force tag. He's got 5 health, so he's going to be hard to get off the board. And even if you don't upgrade him at all, he can just sit on the board. If you have initiative consistently, you can just tap and exhaust an opposing character. That being said, if you're tapping and exhausting an opposing character, you might not be able to keep initiative all that well because you're using an exhaust on your turn and you're giving your opponent 1 less action to take. So they're going to be closer to claiming. Regardless, he can exhaust anything. It just says exhaust an enemy unit. It doesn't say a non-leader, doesn't say ground. He can exhaust anything. Devastator, exhausted. Vader with a lightsaber, exhausted. Grogu's nuts. All right, so let's scroll down a little bit, and I'm going to go over the other Mandalorian card. This is the only non-special rarity card that we've seen from this set, and he's a 6-drop Vigilance Heroism, so blue hero card, who is a 5/6 Mandalorian Bounty Hunter as the traits, which both seem like they're going to be important. When played, you may heal all damage from a unit that costs 2 or less and give 2 shield tokens to it. 2 shield tokens, so you can stack a shield token, so you can have 2 of them, which will block 2 sources of damage, and you can heal all damage from that unit. Again, if we're talking about Grogu, which is clearly what this card's made for, obviously he's going to be useful in other things, but heal this 5 health unit and give it 2 shield tokens is huge, especially if you're upgrading Grogu. Plus, this thing's got Sentinel. The Mando is a legendary through and through. Really good card. Reminds me a little bit about like Obi-Wan, kind of, as a 6-drop 4/6 who gives you an effect. This is a little bit more immediate. He's got one extra attack. He's got really interesting tags in Mandalorian Bounty Hunter. Of course, Force is a really interesting tag currently, but I think going forward, these two might be really important. Uh, I mean, if this is what Legendaries are going to be like, I'm excited. I think it's a cool card. I don't think it's a must-have for every blue deck. Like I kind of think Darth Vader, the green Darth Vader, is kind of like a must-have if you're playing green villain. You kind of need to play Darth Vader. I don't think he's like that, so I really like this design. I think he's very particular to what kind of deck he's going to go into, but he's really solid. Talking about a card that can just kind of fit anywhere is the Razor Crest. Razor Crest is really, really solid. 4-drop, same blue hero, 3/4 Mandalorian tag on a vehicle, and it's a transport. It's a spaceship. It has Restore 2, and it's a 3/4. So this thing can chip away your opponent's little fighters that are coming out early if they're dropping anything. It could probably trade into 2 different things. Plus, it has Restore 2 each time. If you're facing like an aggro deck and they put down a an A wing that is a 1/3, this thing eats that and restores 2 damage back. I mean, it's a really good value trade here on this end. I think it's a much needed card for blue. I think they have the 4-drop that's like a 3/4 Sentinel, which is fine, but if you want something that has a little bit more flair, the Razor Crest is that. But it also has a one plate effect. You may return an upgrade from your discard pile to your hand. So clearly loops back into the whole Mandalorian type theme. I think it works obviously great with the wanted card here because it costs 0, so you lose a card for nothing. So you're gonna have a little bit of a card situation in your hand, and you're getting resources. You're gonna play more, so you're gonna want more cards. Well, the Razor Crest just brings back an upgrade, so obviously works with that, but could work with a lot of things. As far as everything revealed, I mean, Grogu's really good, I think, but the Razor Crest I think is going to see a lot of play as well. Really good card. All right, so let's talk about a couple of Gideon support pieces before we wrap this video up. We have the Phase 3 Dark Trooper. It's a green villain card. It's a 3/3 with Sentinel, an Imperial, a Droid, and a Trooper. Again, I'm reading these tags out because I think they're going to be important. We already have We already have Trooper card tags. We have Imperial, so if we get anything for Droid, this card fits into 3 different trait families. It seems interesting. He's a Sentinel. When combat damage is dealt to this unit, gain an experience token if this unit survives the damage. Pretty awesome. I mean, so you can get an extra experience token, but you have to survive damage. You only have 3 health, so maybe early if you hit into one of their 2/3s, now you become a 4/2. You know, it makes you be a little bit more sticky on the board. It's a little bit harder to remove you. You can't just deal 1 damage to kill him. Now he has 2. Interesting. The only thing that kind of concerns me is that the 3-drop, especially in green villain decks, is pretty populated. You have the technician, the super laser engineer guy who becomes a resource. You have the Imperial or the Royal Guard. So I just think it's a popular spot, but hopefully having 3 tags here, this guy can fit into a deck somewhere. He seems really cool. Then we have Calculated Lethality. It's a blue villain card. Defeat a non-leader unit that costs 3 or less. For each upgrade that was on that unit, give an experience token to a friendly unit. So clearly they're adding a lot of upgrade stuff here with the Mandalorian theme. We got the rifle, we got bounty conditions coming down. So it's kind of exciting that there you have an answer. Seems like a side deck card through and through. I mean, main decking this, if you go against a deck that doesn't really use upgrades, you're spending 4 to defeat a non-leader that costs 3 or less, which is an trade at best, let alone not a great one value-wise. But, you know, if they're playing Grogu and he's got lightsabers and you need to kill him, Calculated Lethality works. So I think it could be a really solid side deck card. All right, the last card we want to talk about is people are calling this Villain's Home 1. It's Gideon's Light Cruiser. It's an 8-drop, just villain, no color. And again, just special rarity. So you're going to get 3 of these in your starter kit, which is great. I love this. I love the special rarity. You buy a starter kit, you have a playset of all the cards. So it's great. Gideon's Light Cruiser, a 7/8 Imperial Vehicle Capital Ship. It has Overwhelm. So already I'm looking at Home 1 and I'm saying you don't have Overwhelm, but this thing does. When played, if you control Moff Gideon as a leader or a unit, play a villain unit that costs 3 or less from your hand or discard pile for free. So that is clearly where the Home 1 synergy or similarity is coming from. But this makes you actually have to have Moff Gideon, either as a leader or a unit. But if you do, you can play a villain unit that costs 3 or less from your discard pile, like Home 1, or even from your hand, which is great. Yeah, I mean, I know I had some concerns about this Phase 3 Dark Trooper fitting in a crowded slot, but clearly with Moff Gideon giving other 3-cost cards 1 attack and Overwhelm, and this thing pulling them out, maybe you do just run a bunch of 3-drops, and it doesn't matter that it's a crowded slot because that's your main slot that you're running. I don't know. I really like it. As far as my first opinions on all this stuff, I mean, Mando's one of my favorite shows. I'm super excited. Razor Crest is an awesome ship. His light cruiser is an awesome ship. I mean, some of these characters are just iconic and awesome now, and I'm super excited to get them in the game. But beyond that, I think there's actually just some really fun stuff. I like the capture mechanic. It reminds me of an old Dragon Ball Z card game I played that you could play captured and hide people underneath your guys. I like the bounty. It gives you some interesting play in some mid-rangey style field decks that you're going to kind of have this really important decisions to make around certain cards that get a bunch of bounties, and you could stack a bunch of bounties. So I'm excited, and I also really am hopeful of this legendary. I think this is a great legendary that's not just has to go in every deck, but it's just solid. So overall, I mean, 10 out of 10. I'm very excited about all these cards. I think they all look playable to me, at least in the side deck portion or in their own particular deck. So I couldn't be happier. Besides this, they also announced that they are going to be talking about one more keyword called smuggle. So people have been discussing what that could be. And they also announced the release date, July 12th, for Set 2 of Star Wars Unlimited. So when your stores tell you that it is available July 12th, make sure to get your pre orders in so you can check it out. Let me know what you guys think about these cards in the comments below. Let me know if anything stood out to you that you liked or that you didn't like. And let me know what I overreacted on because that is what we do here.